Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
The foundation or the basis for a composite report is a matrix report. Now, as the name suggests, a composite report is a collection of one or probably more than one matrix reports. Now, why would we create a composite report? For example, I'm saying a composite is a collection of one report or maybe more than one matrix report. If there's just one report, or even if there are more than one reports, why would we think about creating a composite report? See, the first thing, composite report allows us to basically get data from different sources, different reports all together, and bring them and show them and present them onto a single report. Another example, let's say I'm looking at, let's assume finance data just as an example. Or maybe let's say I'm looking at the hire trend or the termination trend or just simply the headcount trend. Now we want to see the trend as of this year versus as of last year. Now what do? Usually we'll create a trending report or we may create a matrix report which basically shows us the headcount over a period of, let's say, last 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever. But then I want to show them side by side, which means let's say I want to show the hire count in March this year is, let's assume 100, and in the column next to it I want to say show March 2021 it is 300, and then March 2020 it is X, and on and forth. I want to have this unique display, which is not possible in a matrix report, because matrix report will simply get me run the query, the filter that I've put in, and it will get me an output in a set pattern. Matrix report gets me data in based on the rows and column groupings, and I don't have an option to change it right or modify. Now composite report allows us to do that. What I can do is I can create a composite report wherein I'm calling the same matrix report 2 times. The first time I'm calling it from 1st of Jan 2022 to December 31st 2022 in a column beside set right. I can call the same report for last year's date, and then I can again call the same report. Then I can call the same report once again in a column beside set. I can run the same report more than one times for different data ranges to get me the output on a single report. Now I have the option to, for example, doing advanced filtering on a composite report. Let's say I'm building a report to show manager reportees and any manager who, let's say, has 0 reportee. I want to highlight that cell. I have the option of doing that conditional formatting on a composite report. I can show data from 2 completely different data sources. Now a problem with matrix report or advanced report or trending report or any other report is I cannot. I can only use a single data source, right? I cannot get data from more than one data source. A composite report allows me to get data from more than one data sources, by creating more than one matrix report and basically show that data together. Creating a composite report, it's a bit different. And obviously we'll first have to create these sub-reports, and that is a matrix report. I am creating a custom report. Let's say I want to get a count of all standard reports and custom reports in the system. This is a very simple use cases. I'm creating a matrix report and I'm calling it sub-report 1. All custom reports. Now to get data for custom reports, I have a data source called all custom reports or custom reports. Now this would only get details of custom reports. This data source. The problem is this will only get me details of custom reports. I'm selecting this. In row grouping, I'm selecting. Basically, I want to get a count of all the different reports based on the report type. I want to see, let's say, how many advanced reports are there, how many matrix custom reports are there, and on and forth. I'm selecting row grouping as report type. What is the report type? Report type is simply a field and it gives me the type of that report, whether it is simple, advanced, matrix, and on and forth. Do I want to do anything? And this is all I'm doing for now. Let's quickly run this report. Right. It shows me that there are total 777 custom reports, out of which this is the count of advanced reports, and on and forth. Right? I also want to get a count of all standard reports. Once again, how many standard reports are there of type matrix, time, composite, simple, and on and forth? Right. For this, we have a different data source, which is all standard reports. We can create two different metrics report with two different data sources and use them in composite reports in a single. That's what I'm saying. You can. You want to get data for the same report for different durations. Now you may not be able to do that. For example, I was working on a requirement long back wherein we basically wanted to know the number of candidates who have been applying or the number of job applications being received every week. Right. Now, there was no option to get this data on a recurring basis. What did we do? We created a single report, a single matrix report, and then we called the same report more than one time for different data ranges. That is one use case. The second use case is this one. I have two different data sources. Now there's no way I can get all this data into a single report. Now what do? I can create a composite report. This report is based on all standard reports and it only gives me standard reports in the system. This data source, the one I have selected, only gives me custom reports on the system. There's no way I can get this data or this output into a single matrix or a single advanced report. These are completely different business objects altogether, not just two data sources of the same business object. If I go back, if you see, it's not just data sources are different. The business object itself is completely different. This is based on custom report business object and this is based on standard report business object. Two different data sources from completely different BOs and I can bring them together. Let's see how that is done. Once again, I want to get output based on the different report type, which is advanced, matrix, transpose, and on and forth. I am simply running this. Right? It gives me the same information, but the difference is, let's run this side by side. The difference is these are all standard reports. Now I want to show this information side by side, right? I want to see total number of advanced reports in my system, standard plus composite and on and forth. How do I do that? I would go ahead and create a composite report. Creating a composite report, same task, create custom report. I would select create custom report. The difference is my report type is composite. Now, the moment I select a report type as composite, if you see my screen layout changes a bit. Right. Why is that the case? See, I'm getting data from two different reports or maybe more than two different reports. Now, this composite report needs a way to present the data together. Let's say I have one report for worker and let's say another report for position. Now, can I bring this data together? Probably yes, probably not. The only way I can bring this data together is if both those reports have the business object or the field in common. Which field in common? It is basically the group by field in common. It doesn't matter if they are on completely different business objects or data sources. As long as the group by field is common, I can bring those reports together. Prompt set. We have already looked at prompt set when we talked about dashboard. It basically allows me, and I think we discussed that earlier. I can create a prompt set, and the idea is if, because I'm passing parameters to multiple subreports, same is the case with a dashboard. When we build a dashboard has more than one report, right? It may have one question here. Composite report will always be used when we are using more than one report. We can't use create a single. That's what I'm saying. See, I can create a composite report. Right. But then I'm just referencing a single subreport. See, Workday would not say why is that you are using only one subreport. it will not give me an error. The only reason I would want to create a composite report when it is only referencing a single sub-report is when I don't get right. Obviously, if I'm getting everything in this sub-report, why would I go out and create another report? Composite report. The use cases, let's say I want to run this report for different durations. Right. That's the use case wherein we use a single report and get the data into a composite report. But Workday as such would not give you an error. It will not say why is that you are not using more than one report in a composite report. Different duration means suppose a higher trend. For let's say you are running this sub-report here, you want to get higher trend for 2022. When you first run it, it gives you Jan trend of 100 and Feb trend of 500. But at the same time, you also want to get 2021. You would again call the same sub-report, which is SUP. You are again calling the same sub-report, but this time you're getting data for 2021. Right. We'll see that as an example. Let's first quickly look at that. A prompt set. We already know because we are calling more than one sub-report, or we may be calling more than one sub-report. Are there any common parameters that we want to pass to all those reports? If that is the case, we can create a prompt set. We have already seen how a prompt set is created when we looked at our dashboard. I can create a prompt set. If you can show us one. Let's say I'm calling it report type. We have value. One limitation of prompt set is not everything is available. You cannot go out and pull everything on a prompt set. Let's for now select worker type and we'll use it later. We'll see if we can use this later. And let's say country or maybe company. There are quite a few company parameters. Which one is? Let's see what options show up if I select a different company. Let's take this one. These are all different parameters available. All of these look relevant. It is categorized as payroll. I would select something which is, I think this is financial accounting. And this is business asset. Reporting transactions. I'm creating a prompt set and my prompt set is created. Which means I can copy this prompt set into my custom report. Right now, whatever values I'm passing through here, they can then be passed into my sub-reports because internally I'm calling multiple sub-reports. Any which ways, we'll have a look at this. Can you please explain once again prompt set? I'll take another example. We'll use this. This is obviously not relevant in this case. We don't have worker type and company. I'll show with another example. My report name is all. Reports in Tenet. This is my composite report name. Right now, what is the business object I select? This is the business object. This is what allows you to group your data together. Right, as I mentioned, how will Workday identify which reports to get data from based on the common grouping parameter that you have selected? The same parameter can then also be used for your filtering. And how do you select or define what business object to select here? Because both your sub-reports have completely different business objects. Right? You are not actually selecting business object in this case. Both your sub-reports have different business objects. What do you define here as a business object? You actually define the grouping parameter. I'm selecting because both these reports, they have the same grouping parameter. That is what I'm going to select here. Right. Now the next screen. If you see it, it looks completely different from any other report screen that we have seen till now. This is how my composite report screen looks. Now what are we doing? The first thing that I'll have to define is the control field. What is the control field? Control field is basically, or the control column is basically the column which allows me to get data from different sub-reports. These are my columns. These are my rows. The first column that I need to define is my control column. I'll click here. Down row. And I need to define a control field. Right? This is a prerequisite. The first column is always the control column. The business object that I selected is pre-enabled for me. Right, I'll call it again. I'll give it the same name. I can give any name, but I'm giving it the name as a report types. At this point in time, I can define some style. In a matrix or an advanced report, we don't have an option to define a style. Right, for example. In this case, I can go ahead and align it to center. I can make something bold. I can make something colorful. I will look at those examples in a bit. For now, let's see how it looks in a plain version. First, we define the control field. The second column onwards, we define what data we want to pull on this report. The second column, I'll click here and this is where I define the data. How am I getting my data from these sub-reports? When I click here, let's see what sub-reports are available. If you see, only 3 sub-reports are available, even though there are many matrix reports in the system, right? If I run this report, we saw that there were at least, I think, 100-200 matrix reports. Let's run this custom reports once again. How many custom matrix reports are there? There are 8065 matrix reports. But why is that when I try defining my data in the sub-report, only these 3 reports are available? The reason is we have selected the business object as a report type, right? We have also defined our control field as a report type. Now it is basically checking how many custom reports are there which use the same grouping parameter. Workday basically identifies, or the composite report basically groups data based on the grouping parameter that we have selected. Right, and what is the grouping parameter we have selected? We have selected the report type. How many custom reports are grouped on report type? There are just 3 custom reports. It's only showing me those reports. If I open this one, let's look at this report. We have not created it. It's already existing. A chart type is again same as the report type. It basically looks at the same as the reporting grouping option. It looks at the relevant fields. Right. Only because these 3 reports are relevant. It's allowing me to select only these 3 reports. I cannot select any other report in this composite report. Let's take this report. Right. This is the name of my sub-report, but my column heading. I want to give some relevant name. I am saying custom reports by type. Right. The next thing, what fields do I want to select? This custom report only has one aggregation field. And that's why that aggregation field is getting defaulted. Had I selected more than one aggregation field in this custom report, then Workday would have given me an option. Which of those aggregations do I want to select? This is basically the count field, which is defined on this sub-report. Basically, what I'm saying is on column 2, get data from this sub-report and basically show these values, the count values. Again, if I want, I can define some style. And I'm saying then I want to also get data from the second sub-report, which is basically standard reports. I would come in here, data field. It shows me all the sub-reports once again. This time I want to select the second one. And again, the second report also has only count. Right. Let's run this report. Let's also run these reports side by side and see what is happening. (1645) Advanced Reports Standard and 558 Advanced Reports Custom. When I run here, it's getting me that there are. This is how I can get data from different sources. I can do some additional calculations as well. Let's say I want to get a total count. I can come in here. I want to get a total of standard advanced reports, custom advanced reports. I can come in here. Right. And now I want to define a calculation. I want to basically sum the output of 1558. 1645 to get total. How many advanced reports are there? If you see now, I can sum output which is coming from different sub-reports. I'm saying sum, or I have other options as well. I can find the difference, I can divide, I can do any calculations. Right. I'm saying some data starting from C2, C1 is not selected because C1 is basically my control column. I'm saying starting column C2, which is basically custom reports, and ending column is C3. And I'm calling it. If you see, it makes all these options. These options are just not possible in any other report type, right? I cannot add two different columns or two different rows in any other report type. And when I run it, custom reports and standard reports, overall count of 24. Whatever drill down options we have defined on our matrix report, they are also supported here. Any drill down options that I would have configured, they are all available here. Right. I want, let's say, to make this centered. Right. I want to define some styling. I would come to style. Right. There are lots of styles available. I want to align them, let's say centered, or I want to make them blue, or I want to make them bold. Right. Or I want to define my own custom style. Here I can define my own style. I'm calling it a report style, any name that I'm giving it. Right. Do I want to override the number? Do I want any specific format? Here I can select any format that I want. Two decimal places, three decimal places. I don't want any decimal places. I want percentages. I can define those options. I can define what font do I need. I want, let's say, bold. Right. I want these to be large. Do I want them to be underlined? No underlined. Let's say I want them in red color. Right. Alignment. I want to be. Let's say centered, aligned. Right. I can define how many spaces do I want. Right. Do I want to fill any color? Again, not all color options are available. These are the only options available. Let's say I want yellow color. I'm just randomly selecting. Do I want any border? I can define my own style. I can define the top color, bottom color, on and forth. Maybe let's leave this. I can define the column width that I want. We see I can define my own style and then I can apply that style to a specific column. I have that option of doing conditional formatting. Let's run this. Composite report gives me all these options. Let's see if I can create one more report. Create some report. I'll show you in a use case real quick of how to or why would you want to create a composite report for a single report. Let's see. What options are available? I'm calling it subreport 1 or subreport. Work. This is another example. Worker hired. Just let's see what data we can pull on this. Let's see what. Active state. I'm just taking a random example. Let's say I want to get. What example can we pull? Basically, what I want is, let's take that example that we have thought of. I'm creating a call field of type format date. CF format date on worker business object. I'm calling it. I basically want to get the month in which the person was hired. I'm taking hire date as the input. And I want to get the month. Let's take month. This is actually returning a text. I think of any other example. Let's take company. Basically, what are we trying to do in this report? We created another report for work. Basically, I'm just thinking I want, let's say, all employees belonging to GMS. Alright. I've created a very simple matrix report. It basically gets me all the companies or the count of workers in each of the company. Let me quickly run this. We'll see. Because I have selected prompt the user for value, it's basically asking me if I don't enter any input. Let me select global, modern services. If I select these companies and run this report, it gives me for each of those companies the count of users right. A very simple matrix report. Now let's go ahead and create a composite report. I'm creating a composite report and calling it al GMS, non-GMS workers. I am selecting the business object. Can you please show that report once again, please? I just kind of lost screen. I want to see what all you created. Company. That is company. A composite report. Selecting company. Right, because my grouping parameter there is company. I've selected company here and I'm calling it all non-GMF. Now, once again, I'll have to define my control field. Company is my only business object available. I'm calling it company. I am now defining my data field. Right now, it will basically get me all the matrix reports which are built on company, right? There are quite a few matrix reports which are built on company, and that's why it is giving me all those options. What is hour worker hire date? This is the one we have created. Right? Once again, I want to get the only fields to aggregate. Is this just count and that gets defaulted? Here I'm calling this GMS companies. Right. Here I'm selecting company as specify where. For this first column, if I run this report, if you see, these are the prompt options I have to enter. Right? It's showing me the same prompt options. The company, I'm saying select global. Mod Sef. And let's just select two companies. Let's just select 5 companies. Right? I'm calling it. I'm defining a new column. new data column. Once again, I'm calling the same report. Search for hire. Right, I'm calling the same report. I'm calling this non-GMS companies. Right here. If you see, because the report is same, the prompt options are exactly the same. Right, I would say specify where, and I'm selecting a different set of companies. Here I'm getting, let's say these are the 5 companies that I'm selecting here. We will see had I. Let's say I want to get a details of all employees in GMS companies versus non-GMS companies. What would I do? I would first run this matrix report. Select GMS companies and it will give me all GMS company details. Then I'll run it once again. Then I'll select non-GMS companies and it will get me the output. But here, what I'm basically trying to achieve is in a single report, single composite report. I'm calling the same subreport more than once, but inputting 2 different parameters. Now, when I run it, it will get me some weird output, in the sense some employees. Right? Because these parameters have not defaulted any value. They are still getting prompted. But because I have specified parameters for companies, if you see GMS companies in prompt, I had only selected these 5 companies. And it is getting me data for those 5 companies here. Values are all 0 here. But these 3 or 4 companies are selected here and it's getting me data. This is just an example to show how I can call the same report more than once, multiple times, by inputting different parameters and get the output parallelly together. Makes sense. These are the GMS. You created one report, right, Zach? What is your question? No, I'm just trying to see like you. How does this GMS companies and non-GMS companies are appearing? That's fine. The recording will be available to you. This is very simple use case. I'm just not seeing this report. Exactly. That's why it's taking a little longer time. No, that's perfectly fine. Just remember that I'm basically calling the same report in one time, and I'm calling this report with different parameters, and I'm getting the data together on a single. Usually, like when we run in a matrix report, we can only give one parameter. Zach, had I wanted the same output, I would have first selected these 5 GMS companies and then it would have given me the data. Once again, I would have run that report. I would have selected these non-GMS companies and then it would have given me data. But now, instead of that, I'm getting data on a single screen. Again, this is just an example or a use case within. I would want to use a single sub report but include it in a composite report. No, got it. Let's say now, if you see in both these reports or both the times I'm calling this report, I'm basically passing the same parameters. Worker type, worker subtype. I can use a prompt set here. I can come in here. I can click on this gear icon at the top. Right? And we had created a prompt set called report type. I can use that prompt set. Here I can define what prompt set am I using. I had created a prompt set called report type. I'm using that. Now when I go to prompts, populate undefined from defaults. Right. One of these parameters is actually coming from the prompt set that we selected. The other parameter is coming from this company. Exactly. That's why you see two different options. I can come in here and I can specify a default value. This is how I can pass parameters. Multiple reports using a prompt set. I can come in here. Obviously, we don't need company because we are passing different parameters for company. If I go to that report type prompt set, or I'll edit prompt set, we'll have to first unuse this prompt set. The system would. And delete this. Now when I check this box, and these are the values which are coming from both the report that I have got. Instead of populating this value, I can simply say do not populate. Let's go back to our prompt set, which is report type. I don't want this. I'm saying that, say country. I'm just selecting a random value. I can. Let's take Australia, Bahamas, or some random companies. Sir, in Composite Report, we always have to create a prompt set. Not necessary, right? Because when I created my first report, I didn't create a prompt set. Prompt set is. Then we have to create a prompt set like in advance. Again, not required. Prompt set just makes it convenient. Pass the parameters together. That's it. If you see, I can still pass all parameters here. It's exactly the same way we can create. But prompt set only makes it a bit more convenient. I can now select my report type from set here. And when I go to prompt icon, here I can now go ahead and say specify default value, and I can pass the parameter together for all my reports. Right. Prompt set just makes it a bit more convenient, but you can always go ahead and create a dashboard. You can always go ahead and create a composite report without prompt sets. It is not mandatory. It's just an optional setting. Alright. Composite report is a whole use case, or the reason Workday delivered composite reports was that they could be used in financial reporting. They are used to a very large extent in Workday Finance. Workday HCM, they're not really. I usually see a project wherein probably there are just one composite report, not even one composite report. In HCM, we don't use composite report to that extent, though there are use cases. They are majorly used or primarily used in the case of Workday Finance. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.